I was at my parents' house and I was riding one of their mopeds. I turned a corner really fast and there was a squirrel sitting in the middle of the road. So, in order for me to avoid hitting the squirrel, I made this huge right turn and I crashed into a tree. And I hit in such a way that I had to have the tendons on my right hand surgically reattached to the bone. So, the day of the surgery comes, and I have never had a surgery before. So as they started to give me the anesthesia through my veins, I could feel it going through my body, up through my arms, into my shoulders, down through my neck, and then my chest, and then to my heart. In the very second that it hit my heart stopped. So the very second that I shut my eyes and died, I opened up my eyes and I was standing in the most beautiful, perfect marble building that I could ever imagine. And as far down as you could see, you couldn't see an end to this corridor. On the left hand side were these beautiful, ornate doorways or tunnels that looked like they had been cut out of the marble. To the very right of those doorways, about 4 feet, there were these tables, and they each had four benches around the table so people could sit at each end of the table. During this whole process, there was somebody who was standing next to me, who was talking to me in my left ear. I never saw this person, but throughout my whole near death experience, it was a guy who was standing next to me telling me what I was seeing and what I was looking at. He told me this was an orientation center. And I didn't think at the time anything about that I was having surgery or that I had an allergic reaction and that I had died. That didn't even occur to me. I was totally simply engrossed in what I was seeing. And so I just listened. There were people, two people sitting at each one of these tables, as far down as you could see. My guide told me to walk over and look inside the first tunnel. Inside the tunnel, I could see stars, and I could see planets, and I could see galaxies. It was absolutely a magical experience. That is a tunnel that people come through when they die. My guide then said, look up to your left and look at the next doorway. So I looked up to the next doorway, and there was a man that was coming through, and he had his right arm on his left chest. And my guide said he had died from having a heart attack. He looked very dazed. He looked very confused about what was going on. So the woman that was right in front of his doorway stood up. She walked over and she took his hands in hers. And she walked over and she sat him down across from her at this table. And I could see that she was talking to him, but I was too far away to see what she was actually saying. His appearance began to change. He was an 80-year-old man when he came through the doorway, but as he was talking to this counselor, he became younger and younger until he was probably in his late 20s or early 30s. Her job as an orientator was to help people remember that they have just finished a lifetime and that they're home now. And whether you want to call it heaven or you want to call it the other side, that's our true home. When she was done talking to him, he stood up. He walked over to the right of the table and he walked down 3 marble steps to a garden. And I know people have described the gardens on the other side that they're absolutely beautiful, but they are so hard to describe how beautiful they really are. The gardens were almost like they were alive. What was happening to this man is as he walked down those 3 steps and he walked into the garden, there were people there, a lot of people, and they were there to greet him from coming back from his life. They were hugging him, kissing him, welcoming him home, saying what a great job you did great, now you're back home again. And sometimes people don't need the orientation because they are much closer to the other side than others, especially kids. When kids cross over, they don't need to have an orientation because they just came from there. The orientation is for people who may have lived a long, long life and had forgotten where they really came from. And so that's where those counselors really come into play. And it was fantastic. I wish I could describe to you what it looked like. But as I looked down this corridor, there were people coming through the corridors, through these tunnels. It was very busy. People were crossing over all the time, and these counselors would get up and help them and bring them back to these tables and help get them orientated. So the building he took me to next was another Greco-Roman building with white columns, beautiful white Grecian Roman columns out front, and they were formed in a circle with a dome on top. Then we walked in. My guide said, "This is where we plan our lifetimes. All of our lives go through a planning process, and we plan them with our main guides before we come into life, so that life it's not just a random accident. There's purpose, there's reason." When I first walked in, there was a table, and he was standing by it, and there were two scrolls on the table. One had a blue ribbon on it, and the other one had a red ribbon on it. And I didn't know what these were at first. My guide said, "These are your scrolls that you write the major points of your lifetime on." Everybody writes down where they're going to live, what their parents are going to be like. Are they going to go to school? Are they going to go to college? What's their career going to be? Are they going to have a lot of money? Are they going to have a little bit of money? All of that is prepared ahead of time on these scrolls. Picked up the blue scroll, and I opened up the scroll on the table. And when I tried to read it, all of a sudden the scroll folded back up again. And my guide said I'm not allowed to read that until I finish this lifetime. But he was trying to show me that our lives aren't an accident. Everything is actually planned out for a reason. He said we forget it because if we knew what we were supposed to do, we wouldn't be testing ourselves. He took me to a meadow, beautiful flowing mountains or hills. And all of a sudden, I saw animals come jumping down that hill. And he said, every one of these animals that you've ever loved, or that anybody has ever loved, is on the other side. As I was standing there, I could see two of my dogs, and I could see two of my cats running down the hill. And all the animals play together until their loved ones from Earth cross over to the other side and come back and get them. It was such a feeling of unbelievable love that they're all there waiting for you, and that they play with each other, and that they're happy. And then the last thing that happened is my guide took me to this field. As I was standing there, another gentleman walked up. He was about 2 feet from me, and he was so bright that I couldn't see his face. All I could see was that he was wearing a white robe with a red sash around the waist. He lifted up his hands and he said, "You must tell them there is no death." The very second he said that, I woke up back in the hospital with these doctors all looking down at me. He said, "He's back, he's back." I was physically dead for 6 minutes. Yeah, and that's the crazy thing I don't understand is it felt like what he took me on was a 2-hour journey of the other side. How could he possibly have showed me all of those things in 6 minutes? It's so much a piece of my life now that I share with almost anybody who wants to hear about it, because that's what he told me.
If you'd like to hear a bit more about what he saw in heaven, there's a full unedited interview here where he talks about a library that he went to, a place where he got to review his past lives. Go ahead and click right here. If you are new to the channel, you can go ahead and subscribe by clicking on my face right there. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again next time.